Swadika, very good evening and welcome to the special edition of Thai PBS World Tonight as we're still live in Phuket. I'm Nabunag.
I'm Tulip Naksomphopla, and you can see today we are not on the beach, but we are in the middle of the road and there is a barricade in the back. We are in Soi Bangla in Patong city of Phuket province, and there's not supposed to be any car coming in.
Right, so this place is actually called Bangla Walking Street. Normally it's fully packed with tourists, both foreign and local tourists, but we can see right now it seems to be like a ghost town right here.
But today is a very important day for Phuket province and possibly a very important day for tourism industry of Thailand because Phuket is a pilot province for Sandbox project.
Exactly.
Because it is so important that the Prime Minister is here today to oversee the operation himself. So we're going to go take a look at what Prime Minister has been visiting today, and he talked to some volunteers and some officials at many places throughout the day.
เมื่อจะเปิดเนี่ยมันสิ่งสำคัญที่สุดคือความสะอาดและความปลอดภัยใช่ไหมตั้งสนามบินมาเส้นทางข้างถนนหนทางให้มันสวยงามป้ายที่มันเก้กังถอดทิ้งให้หมดใช่ไหมขยะพลาสติกเราลงดูที่ว่าเอาไปใช้ซ้ำได้ไหมนะบางทีมันก็ช่วยกันถ้าทุกคนช่วยกันคนละนิดหน่อยไปได้หมดอ่ะประเทศไทยนะแล้วก็ต้อง
So he was accompanied by the Public Health Minister Anutin Chanvirakul and also Interim Minister Anupong Pautinda and Tourism and Sports Minister Pipat Ratchakit Prakan. So the Prime Minister told those that gathered to greet and welcome him at the airport that he was glad to see them and urged them to work together to make this Sandbox project a success. He then visited the checkpoints. So during this checkpoint, he went to Tha Chat Chai checkpoint. He said that the success of the Sandbox concept will serve as a model for the tourist destination of the country.
And throughout the day, the Prime Minister and his team observed important areas of the island, such as the Sirina National Park, to observe the rehabilitation and cleanliness of the beaches. He also recently held a meeting with officials in terms of the preparation of the Phuket Sandbox scheme. And later in the evening, and I believe it's happening right now, he returned to the airport to welcome foreign tourists arriving in Phuket on a Singapore Airlines flight.
I'm wondering how would they feel? They come out from the baggage area and then see Thailand Prime Minister standing there and welcoming them.
It might be a surprise for them.
Yeah, it might be a surprise for them whether they know. Maybe they know before they get out of the airplane. Anyway, today in his Facebook post, the Prime Minister said that Phuket model is the first major step toward the ultimate goal of reopening the country to foreign arrivals in less than 4 months as planned. While admitting that there are risks involved in reopening the country, the Prime Minister said that it is necessary to take the risk, adding that, however, monitoring the tourists and periodical assessments of the situation are needed. More importantly, he said that the people of Phuket must comply strictly with health and safety measures and refrain from bringing illegal immigrants on to or off the island.
And now let's move on to the tourist destinations. Phuket is not only about beaches, but there are also many natural attractions. So many of them are preparing more measures to limit the number of tourists due to the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as in light of the Phuket Sandbox scheme. So there will be 4 natural attractions in Phuket under the supervision of the Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment, which began welcoming limited numbers of tourists today as the resort island reopened to fully vaccinated foreign tourists as well as Thai returnees without entering a quarantine. So the 4 natural attractions in Phuket include Sirina National Park, which can accommodate no more than 200 people a day on Nayang Beach, Khao Pratel Wildlife Sanctuary, which limits tourists to 150 a day, Khao Tosa Viewpoint and Jungle Reserve, and the Phuket Aquarium, which can welcome a maximum of 1,000 visitors a day. The attractions have all received the SHA Plus certification, and this is according to the ministry spokesperson. Hua Lam and Ao Po of Layan Beach and Maikau Beach are also limiting tourists to 100 per day. The attractions have been cleaned and sanitized with rubbish bins being emptied and wastewater being disposed twice a day. Park officials must wear face masks at all times despite being fully vaccinated against COVID-19, as well as they have to prepare first aid equipment for visitors as well. Tourists are also allowed to swim at the waterfalls, and at the same time, the plastic bags will not be given out at the aquarium, and tourists must separate the rubbish as well. So these are the new measures that are imposed in 4 natural attractions. It's all about the environment itself, the limiting of the tourists because of COVID-19, and as well as the Phuket Sandbox scheme.
So now we also have been talking to the locals, and like yesterday we talked to several people. Today as well, we sit down with one of the taxi drivers in Phuket. And I just know, being taxi driver in Phuket, you do not just drive around.
Exactly.
Sometimes you help them with the personal business, like pick up laundries, help them with the banking stuff, because help with the translation and such. So we sit down with a taxi driver named Chet, and I asked him what does he think about Sandbox scheme, whether he think it will make a change, and this is what he said to us.
ก่อนดีกว่าครับอย่าเพิ่งคาดหวังมากครับไม่ได้อยากมองไปไกลขนาดนั้นครับเอาสั้นๆก่อนว่าเปิดแล้วไม่มีปัญหาอะไรตามมา
So cautiously optimistic probably will be the best way to describe how many people in Phuket feel about Sandbox project, Kate included. He is a taxi driver, so he said when the local government asked for cooperation by observing social distancing, he took a break from his job right away. And he said it has been over a year now. He has income from here and there, but everything revolves around tourism. He has been hearing about Sandbox scheme for a while now, but there was not much information until the last couple of weeks. Chet is one of the taxi drivers that has not modified his car to get it certified by the government. He admits that he is being stubborn, but he will join the scheme eventually. If you want to survive, he said, you just have to do it.
แต่ก็มีเพื่อนหลายๆคนที่เขาเข้าระบบแล้วแก้ไขรถแล้วก็ทำตามกฎระเบียบแล้วก็ลงทะเบียนไปอยู่ในกลุ่ม SHA Plus เรียบร้อยแล้วใช้คำว่าไม่ได้คาดหวังแต่ว่าเรารอดูกันดีกว่าว่าหลังจากนี้จะเป็นยังไงครับถ้าตัวเลขไม่ขึ้นเราก็จะได้ก้าวไปข้างหน้ากันต่อแต่ถ้าตัวเลขมันขยับเราก็อาจจะต้องถอยนิดนึง
So taxi driver in Phuket, such as Chet, like we said before, they don't just drive. A lot of time they help out with personal businesses, besides picking up laundry, getting groceries, they even babysit, so whatever that the customer asks them to do. So when we asked how much hope he has for the Sandbox project to bring back tourists, he told us that not to expect much, and he does not have many options.
สำหรับ Sandbox ผมมองว่าอย่างที่บอกคือไม่ได้คาดหวังแต่ว่าเราไม่ได้มีทางเลือกมากดังนั้นถ้ามองจากภูเก็ตแล้วคือเราพร้อมที่จะก้าวไปกับนโยบายของรัฐครับก็คือถ้าคุณว่าอยากให้เปิดเราก็พร้อมเปิดถ้าคุณอยากให้ฉีดวัคซีนเราก็ฉีดถ้าคุณอยากให้เข้าระบบ SHA Plus เราก็เข้าครับเพื่อให้มันไปข้างหน้าครับแต่ว่าอย่างที่บอกคือผลลัพธ์จะเป็นยังไงเราก็ต้องมารอดูกันแต่เราก็พร้อมที่จะไปด้วยกันครับใช่จริงๆก็จะย้อนกลับมาคำถามเดิมคือหวังไหมคือจริงๆลึกๆก็คงหวังแล้วครับลึกมากเลยหรอต้องลึกมากลึกก็เลยทำให้ยังไม่ขยับ
So Chet has hope that this island will get busier in the next 3 or 6 months. There are some taxi drivers who keep driving, though there are barely any tourists. They join the taxi hailing app. Chet said that the income is just enough to get by, but not enough to make the payments on their cars. So I asked him if he could ask the government directly for any help, what he would ask for. He said it is about the finance, the mortgage, the car payments, that is the big portion of his expense.
อยากให้รัฐช่วยเยียวยาต่อเนื่อง เรื่องการผ่อนชำระหนี้สินของทุกๆอาชีพที่กระทบครับทั้งเรื่องการผ่อนบ้านผ่อนรถตรงนี้สำคัญมากเพราะมันเป็นเงินก้อนใหญ่มากกว่าเงิน 3,000 15,000 9,000 ของแต่ละโครงการที่ออกมาครับ
So we can see that many people are struggling during the pandemic, whether it's financially and with the jobs itself. Like you just said that the taxi drivers don't only drive for tourists, but they have to even babysit for the customers as well. So that's pretty interesting here. And now let's move on to another person you just talked to. That is Sergey, who has been doing property management in Phuket for almost 9 years now. He said the pandemic certainly affected the prices of the properties, but out of over 100 rental properties he managed, it is now at 60% occupancy. So we asked him what his thoughts were about how the Thai government has been dealing with the COVID-19 outbreak, and this is what he just said.
I would say at first they tried to put their heads in the sand, but it won't help much. And I think they realized that, so that's why they're trying to, to soften the measures. But I don't see big difference, like this bubble theme and the sandbox. I don't think it's gonna help much. One thing is to think about the COVID measures here in Thailand. But the other thing, when people have to return, they still have to go to quarantine or some other measures or testing. So it's kind of too difficult to travel right now. I mean, for most of the people who save their time, especially for entrepreneurs, rich people, they don't want to spend even 14 days in one hotel or, under some restrictions. So that's why I'm quite skeptical about this sandbox.
So he is skeptical about the whole idea, and he did actually made a very good point right here. However, he said that two things will help revive the resort island. So the first thing is the vaccination. The government has to push harder. Secondly, gradually but fast, removing the restrictions. He believes that removing the restrictions is the only way that tourism can revive. In the end, Sergey said that people should be more scared going into the road in Thailand more than COVID. The reason is that just because of the death rate itself. He said what needs to be done is building up the infrastructure, and it will take time.
The problem, one of the major issues we have here in Phuket, that a lot of businesses run out of business. They closed forever. It's impossible to just, by the click of your fingers to revive or to relieve it. So the problem is we need a lot of time to build again this infrastructure. Touristic infrastructure, restaurants, cafes, massage salons, etc. So it's business that you cannot make it in one day. My worries is that it will take a lot of time, and a lot of tourists will, go back to their countries unsatisfied, because not the same thing as before.
So now from the Russian businessman that have been doing property management in Phuket, we also talked to, he would call himself a surfer, but he has been involving in the surf business in Thailand, especially in Phuket, for about 10 years now. And he said that he is an optimistic person, but he is also a realist. But if we talk to him, he is quite positive about this whole thing.
Right.
And we asked him about this as well. He said that while a lot of people remain concerned about the pandemic, people have mouths to feed, people have bills to pay, and people desperately need to work. So he said that he is excited about what's happening, and he said it is time to move on with life.
It's exciting. Everyone who lives in Phuket, has business here, is pumped. They're ready for it. I think it's gone on long enough that people have got the courage now to be like, all right, let's move on. And the fact that most people in Phuket are nearly vaccinated fully, I think it's definitely given people this relief, like, okay, I'm going to be okay now. So, yeah, let's open the doors, let's get into it. I know that you have many people in other countries busting to get to Thailand. They normally spend months every year here. Retired people or digital nomads or just people out here holidaying and traveling, right? I think there's many people that want to come. But with new restrictions and ways that they have to travel or things that they can and can't do, that's obviously going to keep people at home. So I don't think it's ever going to go back to the way it is. It's going to look different.
So like many people we talk to, he knows things will not just go back to how they were. It will take time. But anyone who is on the doorsteps is welcome. Tim runs a surf business which provides surfing lessons to anyone interested. Several years ago, he said that he tried offering free lessons to Thais, but most just didn't want to be in the water. He said that they're not a confident swimmer, they're afraid of the ocean. But over the past year, however, surfing has become popular and everyone wants to try it. So though he lost his international tourist business, the rise in the popularity of surfing among Thais has helped to keep him afloat.
Well, funny enough, during the COVID, there was a boom of surfing. It was like the first big wave, the fad of surfing. It's sort of been growing, but it was just explosion. I think what helped was the government supporting domestic travel. So a lot of people from Bangkok were able to come down to Phuket cheaply. We lost a lot of business from international tourists, but we've gained it with domestic Thai tourists. So for us, it's sort of just leveled out and been the same.
So Tim said that the heart of his business, when it started, was to employ local people and give them a job. So over the years, Tim and his partner have trained many young people, especially kids who had dropped out of school early. He said that they have had to struggle in life and have issues, so they need some challenges and anything that will test them. Now his tele-surf business has grown into what Tim called a good-sized operation.
That's sort of the heart behind how we started, and it's sort of grown into a good-sized business now, and we've been fortunate to grow with the rising trend of surfing in Thailand. So we're definitely not the pioneers of surfing in Thailand, but we've been part of that growth, which has been really cool. So we've been able to have a positive influence on what surfing should be like, and being an authentic surfer. You know, surfing's not about image, and it's not about you know, what's the latest cool brand or equipment. You know, surfing is a lifestyle, and it's this connection with the ocean and nature, and it's just about having fun in the waves.
So finally, we asked him what he thinks the government could do to help push business in Phuket to make it happen with the Sandbox scheme. He said that because a lot of businesses are now closed, there should be some applications which provide current information about what people can do and where they can go when they are on the island.
I think probably whether it's an application that all visitors get, they sign up to, which is showcasing what's available in Phuket, because obviously a lot of things are closed, and even though their websites are active, they're not actually functioning. So maybe a current application that people can download that shows like what's open, what's available, what you can do. And obviously for us, we're on the beach, we're outdoors, it's very healthy. I think most people come to Phuket because they want to be on the beach, so it'd be good to be promoted that way for sure.
He seems to be very optimistic right here.
He's very positive and he looked very excited. He's smiling and super energetic.
And the first time we met him, he's just full of positive vibes right here. And that is something really important during the pandemic, when things, you can get really stressed about it, but being positive is just the most important thing right now. And previously, we just talked to the boat operators that offer diving classes. This time around, we talked to Catamaran operators in Phuket, which is also affected by the pandemic, as it heavily relies on foreign tourists, including Thais who often come in very large groups. Chawipradap Sipet, the director of Andaman Passion, which is a catamaran operator in Thailand, revealed that the latest wave of the pandemic is the worst for the business compared to the previous outbreaks. Previously, the catamarans welcomed both foreign and domestic tourists, but when the pandemic started, all of their customers disappeared. Moreover, some of his staff still have to come in for the maintenance of the catamaran despite having no customers at all. Now that Phuket has reopened to foreign tourists, he said that he still has hopes for the foreign foreigners to return. However, he also understands that many of the tourists, especially Thais, are still afraid to travel, adding that most of his customers book their trips for October onwards rather than July. He also shares his thoughts on the Thai government's plan to fully reopen in 120 days. While the captain and other staff members said that they are ready for Phuket's reopening, however, they are also concerned whether the reopening will lead to more infections in the resort island.
ปกติแล้วลูกของเราก็คือลูกค้าค่อนข้างเต็มครับก็แทบจะ 100% แหละทุกวันเลยจนมาเจอช่วงประมาณกุมภาเนี่ยโควิดเริ่มระบาดแล้วนักท่องเที่ยวจีนเริ่มหายทีเนี้ยแต่ของเราครับเป็นมิกซ์นักท่องเที่ยวทุกชาติเนาะมันก็ยังได้รับผลกระทบสัก 20%พอผ่านไปสักเดือนนึงคราวนี้ฝรั่งหรือทุกชาติหายหมดเลยก็คือเราก็หยุดบริษัทเลยครับตอนนั้นใช่เพราะว่าไม่มีคนมาเที่ยวครับเราเปิดไปก็ไม่มีนักท่องเที่ยวจริงๆถามว่าโอกาสมันผมว่าทุกคนก็เห็นว่ามันอาจจะแบบไม่ได้เยอะแต่ถ้าเราไม่เริ่มมันก็ไม่มีทางออกครับในส่วนตัวนะครับในมุมผมนี่น้อยมากเพราะว่าหนึ่งนะเราไม่รู้นะว่าเปิดภูเก็ตแซนด์บ็อกซ์เนี่ยเอฟเฟกต์มันจะเป็นยังไงเพราะว่าอย่างของภูเก็ตเองครับมีเหมือนกับว่าถ้าเกิดว่าเรามีการติดเชื้อผู้ติดเชื้อรายใหม่เนี่ยเกิน90คนต่อสัปดาห์เนี่ยก็จะพิจารณาเรื่องอาจจะปิดยุติโครงการซึ่งมันก็ยังมีความเสี่ยงค่อนข้างเยอะแล้วก็เหมือนที่ทุกคนรู้ครับว่าตัววัคซีนเนี่ยมันไม่ได้ป้องกันการระบาดมันแค่ป้องกันให้คนที่ฉีดแล้วเหมือนไม่ได้เป็นหนักใช่เพราะฉะนั้นการระบาดมันก็สามารถมีได้ตลอดเวลา
So like what many other people think, Chawit thinks that the chances of fully reopening the country within 4 months is very low because we still don't know whether the Phuket Sandbox will be successful or not. But at the same time, many of the locals we talked to, including the staff members of the Catamaran, are ready to welcome foreign tourists again because they think that if the foreign tourists are coming, they will still get the job and they will still have more income.
And when they have the job and more income, the local economy will work too.
Exactly.
So whether you talk to the owner of Catamaran or Shed or Sergey or Tim, they all have their own opinions, different here and there, but they all at the end quite positive about the whole thing.
Exactly. So fingers crossed for the Phuket Sandbox to be successful without contributing to the COVID-19 situation, because if we look at other provinces, especially in Bangkok and its vicinities, people are saying that the situation is out of control right now.
Okay, and that's all the news we have for you in this special edition of Thai PBS World Tonight. But you can go check out our website, www.thaipbsworld.com. We have Facebook, Twitter, we have Instagram, we have TikTok, and we have YouTube as well.
And that wraps up tonight's edition of Thai PBS World Tonight. Thanks for watching, stay safe, and we'll see you tomorrow back in Bangkok. สวัสดีค่ะ